excited again to be here today. I'm so supportive of Nikki and the work that her team is doing. By attending this virtual summit, not only are you benefiting yourself, but you're also contributing to a community by saying, yes, we want more virtual content. Yes, we want more virtual events. And yes, we want things that are actionable and we can take with us to the job tomorrow. So today, we're going to dive in and talk about apps. When folks are asking me about which app is my favorite or which app should I use for this scenario or that scenario, did you know that's actually a part of something called implementation design? While we think we're just shopping for an app, we're actually in step 2 of a 3-step phase that we're going to boil down today and talk about implementation design. It's actually a thing, and you're going to learn a little bit more about it today. I'm so stoked. Let's first walk through what implementation design is and how you are actually doing these pieces already and you don't even know it. Check out this little graphic on the left. If design is the recipe, then implementation is the cake. So when you're asking what app should I use, I'll often say, well, it depends. What kind of party and what cake do you need? All the cakes are delicious, but let's figure out which one works for your audience and needs. When we talk about implementation design, there are 3 major components we need to have. The first is a problem, right? Seems pretty self-explanatory, but oftentimes we aren't clear on the problem that we're trying to solve, and then makes the rest of the steps super tough to figure out. The second part that we need is some research and requirements. Who are our users? What are our current tools that we have? What are our resource budgets? And other questions to help us dig into what the current state is before we can figure out how to solve a problem in the current state for that 3rd step, which is testing and user support. At the end of the day, we may find our favorite tool that solves all of our problems, but if it doesn't work for our team and we haven't tested it or there's no support, then it doesn't do us a whole lot of good, does it? So to recap, we need 3 things in order to work through our implementation design process. We need a problem, we need to do some research and gather our requirements, and then we need to test and support our users or team members who will be using our new app. Let's dig in. Step 1, start with the problem. While this may seem really native to most folks, oftentimes I see asks for app and what your favorite tool is for this task or that, but they haven't yet defined what their problem statement is. So for today's exercise, let's use program management as our problem. My problem statement would consist of something along the lines of, I need a shared online accessible dashboard where collaborative users can update their tasks and deadlines, and I can track for all up project efficiency. That's a lot more detailed than what's your favorite project management app, right? Now what do we do? Okay, so we've got the problem. Next step, and my personal favorite, research requirement and resources. Take a moment and read this quote by Albert Einstein. If I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. For once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. When you're asking what my favorite app is, you're actually on this step right now. You're on step 2 of 3. You're asking for referrals to other resources, right? Which is great. But again, if you don't know the problem that you're looking to solve, all the apps in the world aren't going to help you because again, they're all my favorite. What I'll want to know when you come to me and say, hey, what app should I use? Let's think about it. Who are your users? How much participation and labor are we expecting from them? What tools and budget do you currently have to work with? We know the thing we're trying to solve, which is a aggregate online dashboard for program and project management, but let's dig into who those users are, what our budget is, how much, scalable features do we need, etc. Because asking the right questions, again, gets us closer to those right answers. As we talk about resources, requirements, and research, we're going to break that piece down into 3 subsections because the research part is so important. Let's walk through these together. When we're talking about resources, research, and requirements phase of the implementation process, the number one customer in this entire process are our users. The users themselves, your team members, yourself, your executive, even if they're just logging in to check status, who is using the app is one of the most critical pieces to this puzzle. Think about your current user base. What is their tech level? What is their willingness to learn level? They might be quite capable, but if they've got not 60 hours worth of work and you want to add in an app that's going to take an extra 5 hours of work a week, they may not be willing to learn that and say, I'm too busy, or I'm not really committed to this, or any other way in which folks don't just dive in and start using your tool. So we want to talk about users and skill. What is their tech aptitude? What is their learning style, etc.? The second part about who is the how. Labor and energy. How much time do they have? Where is their attention? Who and how much management or facilitation is going to need? This is like the energy resources that are required. And then the third piece is the actual app itself. What features or functionality are our users going to need? What current tools do we have that it may have to integrate with? What functionality do we need, want, or maybe would like to have, or even don't require? And what are others using the app for that we're considering? So digging into these, our user skills, knowing who our users are. If it's going to be an executive team that's checking on the status of, let's say, board books, right? Because we're talking about a project or program management software. A board member or an executive team is not going to interact with the platform a lot, generally speaking. They're there to retrieve data. They want to make sure it's organized, they can access it, move it around, and then pull it out. It would likely just be status. So in that regard, they don't need necessarily a technical level, a high level of technical prowess, but they need to be able to navigate a piece of software. Let's say your users is a pack of developers who are writing code all day, right? They may not want to dumb down to something as simple as Trello. There might be something that attaches to GitHub, Jira, Confluence, the wikis, and those things, where it has a higher technical prowess to support that app, but you're using you have technical users, so they're going to be more likely to adopt an app that resonates with their technical level. When we talk about labor and energy, we're talking about what we expect from our users. Again, I mentioned if there's like 60 hours of work in a week and Trello and this process, and you want every form filled out in every field at every intricate detail, and this turns out to be an extra 5 hours of work a week, chances are people are going to be like, nah, thank you, I got other stuff to do, right? So how much time do we have to spend? What do we want from them? Is this a quick update? Is it just to validate data? Is it to enter a bunch of stuff? And then the third one is how much management or facilitation will be needed. This is key as it applies to you, right? So if you're out doing this research for an app or a solution on behalf of, let's say, a team, or even if it's for yourself, how much labor do you want to put into this? Because it is not the case you're just going to sign up for a free account and email everybody a link and go, all right, good job, right? Folks are going to come to you. They're going to ask questions. We're going to get into user onboarding and things like that. So we're talking about our who, and this is our research phase of how we support that who. What's their skill level? What's their energy available? And then what are the apps and resources that they or apps and features that they need? Current tool and device integration. This is a great question that folks may not think about. If you're looking at Trello, that's super great. If you're on Slack deployed already, Trello's got a great integration app that will allow you to do notifications cross-platform. So kind of looking at the tools that you already have. Functionality, need, want, and don't require. Need, have to be able to assign people stuff, have to have deadlines. Want, I would love for the app to send reminders near due dates, but I don't have to have that, right? I would love if it would give me a report that says, here's the number of tasks we've completed, here are the number that are outstanding, and here's our current run rate on the amount of time it takes to complete a task, right? We don't require that, but it'd be nice to have. And then the third part of apps and features when we're doing our research is what are the other apps that are being used and how are people using them? That's another key feature. When you're going to ask people what their favorite app is, ask them how they're using it. So again, this is the research phase, and we're digging into who our users are, how much energy and interactivity do we expect from them, and what features and functionality do we need from the app. Sweet, we found an app, now what's next? User testing and support experience. This part is big. And I know I've said that the previous parts are big, but this one's really big. Let me tell you why. I have seen this happen on multiple occasions. We do our research. We've got our problem statement. We do our research. We've got all the functionality and features lined up. We put in live data and we go to roll it out and nobody uses it. Nobody understands the tool. They don't know the problem it's trying to solve, and they don't know how to navigate this new thing amongst the noise of everything else that they have to do. So we could have a fantastic implementation design process, get to the end, and if we don't nail user testing and support experience, it's going to die on the line, right? And so the three key features for user testing and support experience: set up an actual environment. If you're going to go with Trello in this program management dashboard exercise, set up actual projects that you have right now either on your plate or that you know are coming, so you can show this app with actual data that we're using. So let's use an example of employee onboarding. I'm working with a startup right now that has 0 employee onboarding. So for me, I'm actually going to put into Trello, here's what a project, employee onboarding, would look like, feel like, and navigate in Trello. So that way, when we get to our beta testers and our full rollout users, we'll be able to show them the tool with data and a project that they can relate to. If it's just empty or it's just the template information, you're not going to get as much buy-in and native understanding when these users come in to use your app. So set up the environment with actual data. Get beta testers. This could be, I would say, get at least two. Somebody that you know will give you really good feedback, and then somebody you know that might poke holes in it. Beta testers, such as myself, I've beta tested, a dozen products over my career, both internally within a company and externally. I'm a paid beta tester, for crying out loud. I love this stuff. And how you engage me is say, hey, I've got this thing I'm working on. I wanted to solve this. Can you come poke holes in it? Sign me up. I love poking holes in stuff. But having engaged beta users that will give you feedback, not just go in, mouse around, because that doesn't give you any data. And then the third critical piece to user testing and support experience is user adoption and enablement. That sounds like a lot of big words. You are in your seat right now as you're deciding which tool to best support your problem statement and user group. You are helping them to adopt a new platform and workflow and enable a sustainable behavior to use that workflow and platform. Think about that. You are helping users adopt a new platform and procedure and enabling the sustained use of that platform and procedure. And we want this to nail it, because if we've got a good user adoption and enablement, if we can train them, teach a man to fish, then they will be out there fishing all day long and not bothering us, which we like, right? I follow a lot of design, both, web design, onboarding and procedural design, community management and operation design, social networking content design. And Brenda Laurel's one of my favorites that I watch. Design isn't finished until somebody's using it. We can do all the greatest research. We can do all the testing. We can have our requirements, everything nailed. But if nobody's using this, it's not done. It may be the case that we get to the end of this and we get to our beta testers and Trello isn't it. It's too confusing for this audience, or it requires too much data entry or not enough, etc. We may get to this and go, all right, well, Trello's not it. Nobody's using it. Let's go back and look at the process again. We already know the problem statement, but we can go back and dig into user requirements a little bit better. So the idea that the goal is whatever our favorite app is the one people use, right? That's the punchline. My favorite app is the one people use. Now, it depends what they're using it for and what environment, but my favorite app, the one people use. As we talk about user testing and support experience, let's dig into the who's, our users, because again, they are the center of all of this. Now, if this is just an app and research project that you're doing for yourself, this is still great. This is still something that you can use for yourself to keep yourself organized. when we're talking about user testing and support experience, we can break this process down into 3 different parts. Setting up the app, supporting the beta users, and then helping the end users, the general audience, adopt our new process and platform. Setting up the app. What does this mean? Set up the app. In our example, we're talking about project management in Trello. Sign up for a free trial. Read the documentation. Watch some YouTube videos. Know your stuff. What I mean by know your stuff, when you roll this out or you introduce this to the other people that you're going to be using this, again, Trello with, let's say in this example, you are going to be the subject matter expert. It doesn't mean you need to know every single thing about Trello, but you should be able to talk to it about your project in your environment. So for example, that onboarding reference that we make. In Trello, I'm going to know this is the process for onboarding. Here's how we track it, and here's how Trello will help us through that process. Know my stuff. So that way I can be ready for questions as it relates to Trello. If I'm standing here going, I don't know if that does that, well, I haven't done a very good job in my research, and my users aren't going to be very confident in my solution because I don't know what I'm doing, right? Knowing your stuff is a way to almost test yourself and go, how much do I know? Let's put our money where our mouth is. And then when you're setting up the app, as I mentioned, use actual data. Use data that, you don't have to labor over this and put like an entire MBR monthly business review in every single step, but put enough live data in there that you're able to show, let's say you're showing it to your executive, you're able to show the Trello deployment with information that they can relate to. Oh, that's the onboarding project. I see, because they've got it all mapped out in their head, but to see it kind of modeled in Trello is going to be like a light bulb moment, we hope. So we're digging into user experience and testing, right? We've set up the app. We're knowing everything we can to know about it. Now we want to get into our users, beta users, beta users, beta users. Have at least 2. Have at least 2. You can always hit me up, and time permitting, access allowed, I will definitely be one of your beta users. You want to think about your onboarding experience. So UX is a shortened version of what's called user experience, and that happens in software, but it happens with beta users too. Your onboarding experience. What is your onboarding experience? How do you tell them where to install it, how to navigate it, the programmatic use of it? If we use the employee onboarding example, you would supplement with something like, well, here's our onboarding process, and you have your day 1 and you meet with HR and you get a tour, da-da-da-da. Here's how Trello is going to help us track that. So that's the programmatic use of Trello, is drawing that map between the process that we have, our onboarding for day 1, and the tools that we're using to monitor, track, and keep all parties informed. So we want to think about that when we're looking at user testing and support experiences. How are we onboarding folks? What support are we getting them? And who is managing the data? Now, the data management piece, let me take a moment for that. In my world, well, I always volunteer to be data management. What does that mean? In a case like the onboarding with Trello, I don't own Trello as far as the entire success of the platform and how successful people are in getting their work done. I do own the data that is in it and the accuracy of the tool for them to leverage. What that means is it is my job to make sure each of the users that are in our shared tool understand, navigate, support, and can interact with the tool. But also that layer, someone has to be mining the data, mining it, like paying attention to it, the data, because I can't just assume that all the users know exactly what item to put in what field, right? There may be a typo. I sit in on all the executive meetings. So for me, data management's critical because I already have access to the information. I know the deliverables, I know who's assigned, I can go in and kind of clean it up. If you're building this tool or solution and somebody else is going to manage it, right? Like you're as the admin, you're helping to set it up, but let's say a project manager is actually going to take the reins and run with it and then use it within their team, then you would talk to them and make sure we bring it up that, you know, someone's got to mine the data, because at the end of the day, if you've got 10 to 20 users that are all putting in their information for onboarding and it's all wrong, right? We're not solving anything. Now we're just putting all kinds of mess together in one platform. So we really want to make sure that the data that we're trying to capture and leverage is accurate. And the third part of user testing and support experience, so we've got the app set up, we've got beta users that are going to help us test and poke holes and build a process, because you're basically rolling out a product or a program internally, even if it's just for your own team or your company. You're going to market, and your market's internal. So what that support looks like, are you going to be doing brown bags? Are you going to be, sharing videos? Are they going to get a one-page doc that says do this, this, and this? And then the third step in user testing and support experience is user adoption. So if we looked at the first two, setup and beta, that's all like behind the scenes stuff. This third piece is general audience. That's like if you were to take the software or the program and release it to the world or to the general audience, and yours might be internal to your company. User adoption, two big points: program rollout and training and enablement. Program rollout. This part is critical, because I've seen so many times where folks spend all this energy to build this process, an app, and they don't draw the connection between the two. So their users don't see how this platform is solving this problem because there has been no rollout. When we go back to the employee onboarding example, program rollout, here's our program rollout, just as a draft. Here's our day one and onboarding process. Here are all the things that this person needs to do, or fill out, do a tour, meet with leads, etc. And this is the app that's going to help us track that. Here's how we're going to track who's starting, who is doing site tours, who is helping with paperwork, etc. And then you bundle those together. The program rollout is, here is our new hire day one onboarding program. Process, platform, procedure. You could use either one. So what that rollout is, because you get your beta users all up and running and ramped up, that's great. But if we don't know what we're using it for, or it requires the amount of time you've spent with beta users in order to get everybody else up and running, then we're not really bringing a solution. We're kind of bringing them another problem to learn to solve, right? And then training and enablement. Back to that, training them, making them feel comfortable, making sure they have support and access, and enabling them to carry a sustainable behavior forward, right? We want them to be able to learn, love, and use this Trello tool so we don't have to chase people down. And the only way we can do that is by training and enabling them. The third one on this list is my personal requirement for user testing. How do we know we're winning? How do we know this is working? I will often keep tabs with some of the beta users, with some of the founding users. I do spot checks. Hey, I just want to check in, a few weeks later. How are you finding this? Folks will reach out to you when something's wrong. They most often don't reach out when something's right. And if you don't hear from them, they may be on the fence. So for me, how do we know that we're winning and this is working? I stay super connected with my users that are using this tool. Or program that I've rolled out, and make sure that it's supporting them. Okay, so I know we've all been waiting. We're like, what's your favorite app? Savvy Ninja, Melissa, what's your favorite app? All of them, right? All of them. But let's walk through an example of how I solved this myself. My favorite app for the last 2 years has been Airtable.com. Woohoo! Why do I love this? So when we're talking about our problem statement, what problem are we looking to solve? Program management and interactive database. We need a program management and interactive database. Why Airtable? I love Airtable because it's forever free. It has more views and styles than Trello. Trello is a Kanban style of project management, which is great. It's the cards and the lists and you pull all this stuff. Airtable does that too. Airtable also does a few expanded features. I can do Gantt charts, I can do calendars by deadlines, I can do a social media content calendar, and then I can have them all in tabs across the top. Rather than what I use Trello for is moving a project through phases. In Airtable, I'm allowed to have more tabs and have phases under each one of those and kind of have it all aggregated together. And it's also forever free. So I've been using it for the last couple of years and I have never needed the expanded paid features like customizing your intake form and all this other stuff. I really super love Airtable because of its support, its functionality, it's mobile. Now, the downside is though, you cannot work with it offline. And what I mean by that is it is strictly web-based. You can download it to your phone and do an app, but it will require an internet connection to do so unless they're working on an offline feature. There is no desktop app. I can't like Outlook. I can't download it, work in Outlook, wait till I get an internet connection, and then it sends everything out. So if you need a program management or an interactive database platform that has offline access, Airtable might not be your solution. And I've listed a whole bunch more like products. Now, these are not all identical. There's other options, again, depending on your requirements. I love Monday.com. It's got a fantastic user experience. The interface is easy to use. You know, the color schemes and the support and everything's all fun and bubbly, but you only get 30-day trial for that. If I'm broke looking for a job, that doesn't do me any good because I'm spending my monthly money on LinkedIn Premium or something like that. So the idea of having a forever free model for me in my environment is a requirement. And then you can see there's a few other options here on the list. Now, these are all interactive databases, but with different features and functionality. Asana is bolded because everyone's like, oh, is that your favorite project management platform? It depends. I'm working with a client right now who doesn't have let's say a mail server, right? We're just using like cheap web mail that comes with your domain. Well, because we don't have Gmail or Office, we don't have a shared calendar, we don't have an easy way to email each other, we've got to loop it in through our Gmail and all this other convoluted stuff. So in that case, Asana is actually a better program management interactive database because it actually supplements a lot of those things we're missing from having a fully deployed Gmail or Outlook calendar in those regards. So these all do different features. What's my favorite app and my go-to is Airtable.com. And I would love to talk to anybody about those and do demos. One of my favorite things that I have personally is an executive intake form. So within Airtable, I've actually built a form that's almost like an interview for day one for my execs, right? Talk to me about a bad day. Who are your VIPs? You know, what are your 3 biggest initiatives right now, etc. And it's all branded out and looks pro. So my favorite app is Airtable.com, and I am excited to learn about your favorite app, to learn about your favorite problem or solution that you're looking to solve or share.